Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. We crack the code so you don't have to.
Welcome to the Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. We're back with the owners of ReadyMade Productions, Rebecca Roberts and Kurt Szarka. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much. It's good to be back.
Yeah. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation the last time and really getting an understanding of your backgrounds and what led you into the art industry. I know, Rebecca, at one point you mentioned you couldn't decide between being an attorney and being in the film industry. And Kurt, I know you were a big athlete growing up, and then you went into finance initially to start. And so it's intriguing how the two of you came together as partners to create this organization. What really encouraged you to create your own production studio after being in the industry for a while?
I think for us, well, I'd been writing, and we had always, it's kind of funny that we had always said we wouldn't really work together in that way. We had always sort of wanted to keep our, the business aside. And I'd been writing, and we'd been sending scripts out and for others to purchase. And so we were getting all this feedback that these scripts were great and that there was all this stuff, but each company has, of course, their own mandate. And we were just getting all this really positive feedback. And then the strikes hit. The strikes hit the industry. Everything was down.
COVID.
And after COVID, it was just like this
Wow.
wave of like hit after hit. And we just started to realize, like, we were sitting together and everybody we knew was out of work. And even in Canada, although the strikes were in the US, because Canada is predominantly a service provider for the US, it shut everything. So there was just a few little productions or MOWs were going or Canadian. But anybody that was affiliated with the US or any union, it was done. So
Wow.
we sat together and it just was weird. We were in Las Feliz as well. And I remember all the writers, it felt like a ghost town. Everybody left. And there was just this feeling of like this void. You could actually feel the void for the first time. It was wild. And we just sat together and we started looking at our scripts and we were like, well, if we're going to sell them to other companies and they all like them, why would we not start let's see what we would do. And so Kurt, knowing all the business side of it, was like, okay, well, let's start having those conversations. What would we want it to look like? What would be our we needed to have reasons that would guide us beyond a business. It needed to have something that pulled us to it so that it didn't feel like a chore, right? It needed to feel like organic and like we wanted to move forward. And so we started putting it out.
So that's really, really fascinating, Rebecca, Kurt. Do you think that looking back, and it's hard to do the what ifs, but do you think if the strike had not occurred, you would have created your business?
There's a good chance we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, we felt there was a need, and both of us are the type of people where we don't just sit around and accept, right? You can't control external factors, what's going around you, right? But as a business, you can choose to adapt and overcome and create, right? And we're both those types of people. And so we thought, why are we not then doing something about it? At least trying to do something about it. Yeah. And when we started out, we started with very modest, attainable goals. And that just began to compound and grow. And, to the point where we just thought, okay, we want to get to this place and we don't know how we're going to get there, but we know where we're going. We know where we want to go, and we figured it out, right? Trusting the process and trusting the learning process, because we also knew we were like, this is a whole nother side of the industry, right? And, it's fascinating learning the business side of things, but there is a lot of nuance to it. There's, especially with the external factors going on in the market and everything like that. But we knew it was going to be a mountain to climb. But at the same time, that's the excitement in it, right?
The beauty about what we're trying to do as a podcast is exactly what you mentioned, is to spur people to take that gamble. Because if you, like what you mentioned, you don't necessarily know, the path isn't completely mapped out, but you have a really good understanding of what you want to achieve, and you have a lot of confidence in your ability to achieve it. But again, you don't know if you map out the steps A through Z, you don't know what those steps are going to look like, but you know that you'll figure it out along the journey. And that's kind of cool what you just mentioned.
Well, and I think something that we learned very quickly, though, was just put the one foot in front of the other. And by doing it in a way that, Kurt was saying that we built it in a way that we didn't need it with goals that were attainable. We didn't set out to go, we're going to make a $50 million movie and, take it to market and try to get it in 1 million theaters and all of that. We were like, no, let's make something that's on our very first one that's contained, that we can control, that we can move
Right.
slowly and methodically with. There's no rush. That way we can slowly work through the problems, see where the issues are in the industry, where the inefficiencies are. We can actually start to slowly, by not creating that roadmap, like you were saying, Ronnie, is like by not doing that, by instead just focusing on what's the next best step, we
Right.
were able to then tackle those challenges as they came, or wins as they came, and start to see that maybe there's actually a different map. And maybe if we'd have
Sure.
stuck to the one that exists, we'd be in the same position that some companies that are really struggling right now are, by trying to
Well,
stick to the roadmap.
and that's interesting. A lot of companies, they create a product and it becomes kind of their proof of product, right? Their proof of concept. And it sounds like you did. You took smaller steps just to make sure that you can figure out how to make it work. Because sometimes people try to go from 0 to 100 overnight,
Mhm.
and it collapses quickly,
Yeah,
which makes it hard for them to recover. But the way
absolutely.
you did it, you're able to adjust and tweak and continuously improve and refine along that journey. That's
Mhm.
Yeah,
fascinating.
and that's exactly it.
Mhm.
We saw that and big mistake, and we've seen that happen in, companies that try and exactly what you said, take it from 0 to 100. Everybody wants to be at their final
Right.
destination tomorrow,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And that's just not reality, right?
Right.
And if you try and set out to do that without learning the process and without making the mistakes, without failing along the way so you know how to do better, or you recognize where the pitfalls are, right? It's the fastest way to basically, it becomes almost a non-starter, or
Right.
your business just fails right away. And it's the toughest thing. It's a learning process in that it's uncomfortable
Mm.
not knowing where the future
Right.
is headed, right? It's uncomfortable not knowing how you're going to achieve. And I always think that's the biggest deterrent for people getting started in business is, not like thinking this is where I want to be, but I don't know how to do it, so I'm just not even going to try, right? You have to
Right.
get comfortable with the uncomfortability of this is what we hope to achieve down the road, and we don't know how we're going to get there, but that's okay
Mhm.
because
Right.
we're open to learning and we're open to growing and getting better.
And it's
That's
what the
very
goal
cool,
is
Kurt.
too, right? When you started, one of the big words that Cut said when we were building this was it has to be sustainable and
Right.
repeatable. And that was the big thing for us. You see a lot of times, and it's always in the news about this one independent popped off, right? And it's
Right.
amazing and it's incredible. And I love seeing that success. I think that's brilliant. But is it repeatable, right?
Right.
Because sometimes when everything goes right from the beginning and it's just like lightning in a bottle and it just goes right,
Yes.
that's amazing. But also all those lessons of where the inefficiencies are, all those lessons of the pitfalls and the
Mhm.
whatever, you don't see any of them. So
Right.
it's been great for us in a way, like even when we've had the wins and the successes, even when things have been good, Kurt's
Mhm.
big thing was it has to be repeatable and
Right.
sustainable. Otherwise, as a company, for investors, for everyone, it's
Mhm.
better for us to slowly grow and continue
Right.
to be consistent than to have these big spikes and drops.
Right.
And so, you
So
know
you would appreciate this, Rebecca, is that for me, just looking at the movie industry, having that one hit wonder is
Mhm.
exactly what you don't want. And today, with social media, having a person that gets viral, they have one clip or one item become viral, and then they think they've made it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they realize that they were a one hit wonder in social media, right? One
Yeah.
item went viral and then they're gone. And they don't understand how do you create that one scalability, repeatable type of
Mhm.
product and that you can last long out of it. So that
Yeah.
growth that you just mentioned and being stable is so critical.
No, I
Absolutely.
and I agree, and I think the thing is for us too, it's the partnerships we've been able to build in that time. Because we went slow, we were able to really focus in on our relationships and build longevity within the relationship so that when we do projects, when we take it to investors, to whatever, we're not now standing in front of them as just two. We're standing in front of them as a collective of people that now will show up for us because we've treated them a certain way, and we've created and nurtured these relationships so that we know that when we do more projects, when we grow, when we build, they will build with us, they will grow with us, and they will support us. And I think that we focused on as well.
And so this is probably a good time to talk about your ecosystem, because that kind of lends to the same thing and how you created partnerships. I talk a lot about partnerships. You mentioned briefly in one of our earlier conversations about bartering, which I don't think is done enough today between businesses and business owners and friends and partners. But first, I'm sure people are wondering, what is it that you do? What is your business? What is ReadyMade Productions? Because the industry is really large, and you have people that are in different parts of the industry. But speak about specifically what you do, and then talk about some of your product, because you make some really great films. But talk about where you fit in the industry as a business. Oh, and by the way, when did you start? What year did you officially start?
What year did we technically, was it 2020?
2022.
2022.
Wow.
Yeah, 2022.
That is cool. So
and
4
then
years old.
Yeah, we started building, and we started developing at that point, developing not only the IP and the creative, but also the foundations of the business, mapping it out, making it, kind of brick by brick, so to speak, so that we had a good foundation to springboard off of.
Well, and then we combined our experience in the sense of, like, obviously coming from a more corporate background. But when I was in the music industry, the thing I remember more than anything is they're like, it was sort of goes in line with the one hit wonder thing, is they always say, don't do your first until you have number 2, number 3, and number 4 lined up to go. Because the moment you go, you get that proof of concept and you build, you need to have an arsenal of this.
Agreed.
So we spent all that time. I think Brother, which is the one that we led with, Brother was written to be contained and to be our start because it was attainable at that time. The other projects, they all scale up in value and in price, and we've developed those ones for years. And they're the ones that we had tested in the market and all of that. So those ones, we got them to the place where I'm pretty sure there's at least 3 of them that tomorrow, if money came in, it would like boom, and they would go. They have budget, they have everything ready. It's like even our series, we have all that ready to go. So we laid all that out. And I think the big thing you're asking about, the foundation of our company and what we were trying to do and where we fit in our model, we noticed as actors that there's a tier of people in our industry that are being underserved, and that gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger every day. And basically what it is, we're seeing incredible directors of photography, directors, actors who all have risen to this point where they're like doing TV series, or they're doing, they've got great credits, great experience, but they've not quite popped off to be the next. They're not Christopher Nolan. They're not Spielberg. But they're maybe the next Spielberg. And so we realized, though, that with these mergers and consolidation happening and all of that, I saw an analogy recently that was saying there's only so many tickets to be handed out. And, if you're running out of the tickets, it's not that you're not deserving. It's that there's just only so many tickets. And it's going to go to the people that have been at the top the longest. And so for us, it was, what if we could make a space where we're independent in the sense that we are an independent, truly independent company operating outside of a studio, but at the same time, we're going to bring in these insanely brilliant people that were in the middle ground, at that were already incredibly experienced, know what they're doing, but just never got that one big shot. They never had that moment. And that's what in their industry right now, we're seeing this massive white space open up, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so for us, I can look people in the eyes and say, I know when we do our projects, I can bring on the team that did The Last of Us and Fargo and all. I can do that. We can do that here. And I think that is where we realize that's where we want to sit. We want to position ourselves. Is how can we use all of the incredible talent and incredible resources that are available but are being underutilized, and then match them in an ecosystem way with the next wave of generation of young filmmakers, because they need to train from somebody, and they can't train under Nolan, but they could train next to the person that's getting their shot. And so we've always paired experience with new, and I think that allows us, again, back to sustainability to build an ecosystem creatively so that we can keep moving forward.
Well, and that's an interesting piece. And I've done this now for a couple of decades where I've seen people that are extremely talented. They were vice presidents or senior vice presidents in organizations. And then those organizations are forced to kind of restructure. So some of those people are laid off. And there's really not another place for them at
Mhm.
some of the other companies at the same level in compensation, but they still want to do great work. So a lot of these smaller companies can get that kind of talent without the same expense and then really broaden their capabilities as a smaller growing company. And so your point is absolutely right on. And what keeps a lot of those people from being hired at these smaller companies is that the small company think that person is outside of their realm of employability.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of a conversation. Talk to them. You'd be amazed at what that person will come on. And for that person, maybe they'll take some equity instead of the compensation just to be a part of a project or a part of a company. But you're
Yeah.
bringing some amazing talent together for your projects.
And when I think to your point too, it's on top of that, there's a layer of they're artists.
Right.
And when you work for massive studios, you're often bound by, and rightfully so, the studio's investing hundreds of millions of dollars. You are bound by this entire structure that's like, it needs to look like this, it's got to be this,
Right.
it's got to be that. When you're working in our world, if our cinematographer says to us, I really want to try this thing where we're going to push the blues so extreme that people feel cold the entire time. And I know that's normally in sci-fi because blue doesn't really, you
Right.
know, and I'm like, try it. Let's do it. And
Yeah.
then they can, and they do it. And then we watch it. And now what's crazy is that decision, when people think of our movie Brother, they always call it the Brother Blues. And what's interesting is
That's
that
cool.
is the number one thing people talk about with our movie is the coloring and the tone and the feeling of it. That is because we have the ability, and our director and our cinematographer, they built this entire world. They came to us and they said, this is what we want to do. And we're like, yeah. And we can make those
Right.
decisions very quickly. And so because we're also affording them on top of working with them in the budget range, seeing what we can do, we're allowing them a freedom creatively. That is why they went into film in the first place. We're
Right.
able to give them those spaces to do that. And then we're trying to build a culture around it so that while they're in the freedom of being vulnerable and being creative, we're creating safe spaces. So also they feel supported the whole time.
Right.
And that's
So
really been the goal.
when you officially launched the company, what was the first next step? Did you have to go find an investor, a project, or were you able to bootstrap it on your own just to kind of get it launched? So if someone is looking to come into your industry and they're thinking that it's going to take me $100 million just to start,
Right.
what did you do to really get it moving?
Well, we knew that, I mean, the film industry is an extremely capital intensive
Right.
industry. Um,
Exactly.
so we knew that there wasn't, there was a lot of bootstrapping, getting creative,
Okay.
figuring out how to get it done, but also being smart. Like Rebecca said, leading with Brother where it was contained. We knew we could do it. We knew we could bootstrap it, but also we did have to go after investment.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in a way that we're not going to ask for $50 million right out of
Right.
the gate when we
Now,
have no
Proof of
proof.
concept.
Now, Kurt, real quick on this, though. So to kind of distinguish the two, you have investments for the business, which, and then I know your business is filming, and then you have investments for films. I know a lot of places go out to get
Yeah.
investments for a specific film, but from the business side, you really started it without any real capital. But it sounds like you went to get investment for the actual film.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went and got an
Interesting.
investment for the actual film once we were ready to do that. But
We also didn't
Gotcha.
have to buy I think something that distinguishes our company as well is that you normally the most capital intensive part at the beginning when you're doing film and you're doing unionized productions or anything like that is buying the IP, is the
Right.
content.
yeah.
So we also, we weren't paying thousands and hemorrhaging money to develop scripts that were other people's. We were doing it all ourselves. So
Nice.
I will say
Yeah.
that I think a big piece if someone's going to do this is to try to have somebody in your business who really understands creative. And even if you're
Gotcha.
acquiring a script, that they have the ability to develop it. I think
Right.
that is something that we see a lot is you either get people starting the companies that are only creatives,
Right.
but it goes back to why we blended our worlds. And that was why it wasn't so capital intensive
Right.
at the beginning for the company, because we were able to develop those slates on our own dime,
And
really.
and what you did which was just absolutely brilliant. Again, goes back to the barding, but you didn't go out and buy a bunch of camera equipment and microphones, and you didn't go out and lease a gigantic 50,000, 100,000 square foot facility. What did you do to be able to produce your product without having the overhead costs associated with a lot of groups?
Well, we made partnerships. I mean,
Nice.
we knew what we didn't need. That was one of the parts of the development process, is figure out what we have, what we are good at, and then figure out what we don't have, and then
Nice.
go out and find that. And bringing it back to our earlier conversation, we had moments like that where we thought, okay, we need this portion or this piece of the puzzle to accomplish what we're doing. I don't know anybody who does that, or we don't have that connection yet, but we're going to find out. And one thing led to the other. And often it's in ways that you don't think, right? You can't plan it out all the time. You need to know what you need, but not necessarily how you're going to get there. And we started just piecing the puzzle together because we were so specific and knew exactly what we needed to get it off the ground. And that was, again, we had spent a significant portion of time in the development phase so that we knew exactly what we needed to execute when it came time to execute. So a lot of that was done with strategic partnerships.
When to Ronnie's
What
point,
is, go ahead.
just
Oh, go ahead, Rebecca.
something you said earlier, you were saying that a lot of people don't feel that they can go to the more experienced people because they won't be able to afford them. I just want to bring it back to your point about that, because it adds to this about our partnerships. There are things that came onto our set that I could not even have dreamed nor imagined that on a movie that was our first movie, we could have had. To have Panavision, that is insane. The
Wow.
lenses we were using, they're the
Yes.
lenses that we used on Christopher Nolan's movie. Like, this
Wow.
is, we had these things. On top of that, we shot our debut feature on a film lot. We shot it
Wow.
in a film house. That was because of the community that's here, and that what I think is beautiful and amazing about this area, about Calgary in particular, or Alberta, is there's very much a mindset of I grow, we grow together, where people that were very successful, that own those lots, that are big companies, put their hand down and said, okay, we know you can't afford that right now. It's your first one. How can we make this happen? Because, we need more sustainable companies. We need more work for everybody. So let's all work together to make sure. And because of that, as we continue to grow and it's getting bigger, we will always go to those people first. Even if we have however many $1 million, we will always go to those people. The team over at Sunbelt, we will always go to them first for certain equipment, because they showed up at a moment when we were starting out. They invested in us, really. And so, especially Daniel Braun here. And so they invested in us. That's really what it was. They decided, we're going to give it to you. Normally it would be this rate, but we're going to give it to you for this. And so we had this incredible system where they came out because they effectively were investing in our success, so that when we're successful, we will continue to go to them. And I think it's that beautiful system. So we're not wasting money on buying stuff that is just going to sit there. And we're also able to build these collaborations that as we move forward will just grow with us.
That is absolutely amazing. Now, Kurt, you mentioned that your concept, you said you build crews like a football team.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So what do you mean by that?
I mean, film is such a collaborative process, just like sports, just like football, right? You're not going to win a game by any one player, right?
Right.
Everybody specializes in their individual position, right? And so when we came together to build our crews, we thought, who is the best at what they do, and then let them do what they do, right? And we from being on sets, from witnessing this stuff firsthand, we really found that that's not really that common, right? And crews aren't treated well. The team doesn't work as a team a lot of the times. And we just thought that's ridiculous, because then the end result isn't going to be as good,
Or
right?
the
The
people aren't-
final,
yeah.
because when you don't have people who are happy on set, loving to do what they do, feeling like they're heard, all of that, then you're and the product suffers just like it does in a sports game, right? It
Right.
can, the most, the smallest little hiccup can lead to, whether you win or lose the game,
Right.
right? So it's about bringing people together to work together, right?
Right.
And to feel good about what they're doing, to feel like they're heard, to feel like it's good work environment, to feel like
Mhm.
they want to show up and do their best every day, just like you would on a football field.
Right. Now, Rebecca and Kurt, your website is brilliant. It's a wonderful, beautiful website. To be as young of a company as you are, it's impressive. And you even have merchandise on your website. Tell us about your movie. Tell us about Brother. You've mentioned it. What is Brother and how is it doing and what does it feel like? And the release, I understand, was fantastic. What is the movie? Yeah.
So Brother is a psychological thriller. We always say it's a psychological thriller wrapped around a family drama. We really loved the aesthetic of the 90s and 2000s. So this movie was very much a nod to those movies. But it's a deeply personal story. It's about, for us, we wanted to tell the story of what it was to be the families living in the aftermath of trauma and addiction.
Okay.
And so a movie like this would typically be focused on the addict and they would be the conflict in the script, but instead we want to remove that and just show the impacts that these issues and themes have on the families. And so we wanted to kind of ground this entertaining thriller in something very true and very real for
Amazing.
many people. And so, yeah, when it was our first one, we knew that it needed to be contained. We knew that we wanted it to have a very specific aesthetic. We talked about the blues and all of that. And so as we built this project, it's grown into something that was much bigger than we originally
Nice.
thought. It's definitely it got that momentum, got the wind under it, and it just has carried us. And it was just everybody started to come on board, and it snowballed. It
Nice.
originally, I think we said, let's shoot our first movie for like very little, and then here we are, and we were like, holy, okay, and it just kept getting
I
bigger,
love
and
it.
and we're really proud of it. As we said, we've tried to go slow. We've tried to be intentional. We've tried to be focused. And our goal with this project was just to align all of those pieces, to learn how to communicate with our team, how to communicate with the creatives, how to make sure they had the freedoms they needed, and to learn. And now working with marketing teams, working with publicity and all those things, we're learning that whole world of it too, so that
Nice.
we can
Right.
integrate all of that into our systems moving forward. But it's been fun. It's been a wild adventure. We didn't
Yeah.
expect to have a billboard in Times
Uh,
Square and to
cool.
have the premiere in New York. Like we all
Wow.
up becoming far bigger than we, I think, originally hoped, but we're really, really
Right.
proud
So
of it.
what was the premiere like? I've not walked down a red carpet for a big film. I can only imagine that just being exciting.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. It
Yeah.
was it was super exciting. I mean, we had such a great group of people there.
Mhm.
It was such a fun night. So much of the team was down there, and
Mhm.
just able to experience that and share the project with those people was just absolutely incredible. It is really that moment where you go, hey, we've been, it's taken us years to get to this point,
Yeah.
and just in enjoying it, right? And I mean, New York City is amazing.
It's amazing.
It's the dream, right? We had always dreamt of having a premiere in New York City. So yeah, it was a ton of fun.
And we also added just something that we did as a company. So we've worked as actors on movies, and when you are not the leads, they always do these big premieres and you don't get invited. The crew that worked on it, it's always like, because they come up to Canada or they go to wherever and they shoot the movie, and then they do the premiere, and you're on your social media and you see the premiere and you're like, oh, wow.
Aw,
And then they, after the fact, do this like crew screening for the crew
right.
and the team that's local. And it's always just like at a movie theater and everyone wears hoodies and it's just kind of chill, right? And so we also set out that when we did this, the very first time this was in a movie theater, we made a vow from the beginning: the biggest, most splashy event we will do
I
will be
love
for
it.
the crew and the cast that did it here. It will premiere
That's
where it
cool.
was shot first. So we did it here at an independent movie theater here called the Plaza.
Very
The
cool.
crew, the cast, the whole team decked out in full, blue carpet, because we had a blue carpet garb.
Nice.
Everyone looked incredible. And So then when we went to New York, that just felt extra special because we knew we'd already
Wow.
shared it with the people who had put so much behind it, you know?
Right. That's so amazing. So what's next then? What's your next project? I know your website has a lot of upcoming movies.
So we have we have a series called Chasm that's already we're in talks with bigger studios about, but on
Okay.
top of that, for feature films, we have 3 that we could go with right away. What we're doing right now is we want to listen to the audience. We want to we want to start having that conversation so that
Right.
we can make sure that we're always making projects that people are excited to see. And
Right.
so we have Hidden, which is an action thriller that would keep
Cool.
us somewhat in that world, but push us further. So taking everything we've learned, but going further. That's really fun. And we're really excited for that one. I think we could really
Sure.
pour creativity on that one in a way that would be really exciting on set. And we've got some really cool concepts for how we would shoot it. And the team is they're already on it. So it's really
Okay.
exciting. Then we have a movie called Three Chords. That one we are very, very excited about. That one is our sort of, it's country. It's got England meets country, and it's
Right.
it's a romantic, but we'd love to do that one because it's combining all of our loves, music, as well as then it's got, you know, a romantic element. So it's would be very light and fun to do. I think that one that would be like a fun break to go from doing something so heavy to doing that. And then we have Cooper, which is a smaller, sort of more contained, but kind of like a Little Miss Sunshine.
You have a lot of product in motion, and that is
Yeah.
and they cross a lot of different segments,
Yes.
not just thrillers,
Yeah.
but you have a good
Mhm.
cross section of movies. That's exciting.
Yeah, well, and in addition to that, I mean, we've got the ones that are ready to go in the pipeline right away, but we've also got ones that are in development.
Mhm.
We've got 2 more series after this that
Yeah.
are more of the franchisable IP that
Mhm.
have that we're working on the world building right now, right?
Okay.
Not just building one, you know, a couple seasons in it, but we've got the whole world around it and mapped out all the way up to, you know, 5 seasons so far. So,
Nice.
I mean, and in addition to that, with Chasm, we've got a feature film that's also the prequel to the series
Yeah.
as
Very
well.
cool.
So we're working on building out these worlds around the IP so that there's
Right.
long term and potential to build audiences long term.
Well, that certainly sounds like a page out of Taylor Sheridan's book.
Ah,
You know, with creating product like Yellowstone, and then you go back to a prequel, and then now he has Marshalls and some others.
Oh,
It's really neat to see how that dynamic works.
absolutely.
Good to keep it fresh.
And I think
Absolutely.
what's so brilliant is that he took something that was so true and authentic to him. He took
Yeah.
something that was, you know, we went to go on a ranch here, and we're sitting with John, who lives out and has worked on a bunch of movies. And, you know, you can't just pretend to know what that is. Like you can't build that world if you've not been a rancher
Right.
and you've not actually been on the ground, and it's inherited generations down, and there's something so authentic about it. And I think that's
Right.
why when Taylor Sheridan does something, I think it's just got this feeling of authenticity to it. And then he's
Right.
just such a brilliant writer and he knows how to develop characters, and he knows how to, again, listen to his audience, and they're asking for this and he's giving them what they're asking for. And I think that that's a brilliant, brilliant business model, and really exciting to watch. And it's a very high bar. Like,
I mean, he's
holy,
the GOAT.
he's the goat.
He's amazing. But his work is definitely something that we study a lot
Yeah.
and
Love it.
we look
It's
at
impressive. It's impressive.
as we're building out our own.
Well, Rebecca and Kurt, what you're building is incredible. Congratulations on your success in such a short period of time. My hope is that anyone listening in, whether they're in movie, films, or in a different industry, software production and development, that there's so much to learn from how you've created your business, how you've built your business, and even how you started your business. You started it out of kind of a need to create work opportunities in your ecosystem because of the strike and then because of COVID. And they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and it sounds like there was a need, and you really jumped on that opportunity to create something special in the marketplace. So congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you very
you.
much. Yeah, we appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we really appreciate it.
Any final business decoded ideas for that audience listening in? I know you speak about fresh voices, and a lot of it you just covered so much depth, but anything that you like to leave our listeners and viewers with?
I think the thing that we've talked about recently is find your mentors if
Yes.
you can. They don't have to be in your industry. They don't have to necessarily be in the exact field you're in, but find your mentors, because the one thing that people don't really speak about is it's a very lonely road to
Right.
do, and especially when you're building something, we're very lucky we have each other. So it's find your people. We have a great team of people, but it's also finding those people that can give you those objective opinions from the outside that have experience. It's so valuable to be able to listen to somebody who's not in it, and be able to use their experience and their advice. I
It's
know
amazing.
yourself, Ronnie, you're really good at talking to people and listening, and you've seen so many businesses that you're able to give a breadth of experience from listening to multiple people. That is
Right.
invaluable to companies. And so whether it's a podcast, whether it's finding, somebody that is you just look up to and admire the way they've conducted themselves in business, we've really found it that you need those mentors, you need those guiding lights, so that when things aren't going right, you've got someone to call and they go, "Nah, that's normal." You need
I love
that.
it.
Yeah,
Well, I
and
tell
I
you, if you ever need your next 007, I might be
yeah,
willing to raise my hand.
absolutely. You'll be our first call.
Yeah. You have one? Sorry, I said mentors, but is there one that you had? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just, just to add to that, I guess, is yeah, it's just never, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but never stop listening and learning.
Right.
I think listening is kind of a lost art. Everyone wants to speak their opinion nowadays, right? And just listen and learn from people. And the other thing is,
True.
like, it's okay to not know, right?
Right.
But then it doesn't mean you're not going to get there, or that you don't have a hope, right? It's and then lastly, it's don't take crisis as, don't fear the crisis, right?
Right.
Learn from it. There's opportunity in it. Stay calm and just you'll figure it out. And so
Right.
I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. And so I think those are some of the biggest skills that we've learned and also continue to learn, right? Because we're,
Right.
and take those failures as not sometimes not even failures, but obstacles, as just as learning lessons, not as, like, again, that I'm awful, I'm a failure, I'll never make it, but just as analyze it, unemotionally, and just say, okay, how do we pivot? How do we learn from this? How do we grow from
Right.
this?
Well, the bad takes
Right.
you sometimes to the right places.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's
That's
one
true.
of the
Sometimes the
biggest.
door needs to slam so that you can
It
actually,
does.
oh, wait a minute, my audience is right there. I was looking in the
Yeah.
wrong place, or I was,
I Ironically, I just had that conversation last night with a friend that was doing, and I can't remember the details of what she was doing, but she was doing something and it didn't turn out anything like she had hoped, but it led her to a better place.
yeah.
She wouldn't have known that had she not had that stumble, but it led her to where she needed to be and where she wanted to go. Ironically, it just wasn't planned that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the crazy thing sometimes, because it's human. We always want to react in those moments because it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that's huge. And it's not just in our business, but in any time you're an entrepreneur in any industry, is you are going to be consistently uncomfortable for a
Right.
long time. And there are
Right.
just these feelings that are not gonna feel great. And you've gotta, sit with them and know that there might be a reason for this. Maybe
Right.
this seemed great in my head because I built it up, but it's not the direction I want to go. And maybe if we went this way, then it would have had a bad outcome, or
Right.
not led us to where we needed to be in our business. And you just never
Yeah.
know.
And Kurt, I'll close with this because you made me think about it. You mentioned the need to listen, and that is kind of a lost art form in so many ways. About 20 years ago, I became a certified trainer for the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the 7 habits was seek first to understand, then to be understood. So it's that listening component. And it had been in it. So my training book and material had been in a box for quite a few decades in storage. And I recently brought it out because I was helping an organization and it reminded me of all of those principles. And then I realized that those principles are still relevant today as it was 20 plus years ago. But that part of listening, so critical. Being able to listen, being able to pivot. I studied Kaizen, which is a continuous improvement concept many, many years ago. And so you're right on. Listening is important. Being able to continuously improve, not thinking that you've already solved everything because the world changes. And if you aren't continuously improving and adjusting, you're going to fall behind. So some great concepts that you laid out for everyone.
Yeah, that's 100% it. And so, yeah, there's incredible power in that.
And also,
so Rebecca Roberts. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I would say this way, everyone should listen to your podcast. You've got all this experience and all this knowledge. And I think that's just so incredible that something from 20 years ago that you've stored that though. And even if you've not brought it out, I'm sure it's informed everything you've been doing for the last 20 years. And I think that that's incredible and invaluable for people.
You know, the craziest thing, and I was thinking of this the other day as well, not only in those 7 habits, but there was something else that I picked up many, many years ago. And you think you used it then, and it's not going to be relevant again. And I'm finding myself bringing out more and more materials and concepts that I learned because a lot of the people that I'm helping to coach now didn't go through the process of having to learn some of those critical items. Like they've done well, but they didn't have the foundation. And so I'm bringing it out. I'm bringing quite a few items out. So I appreciate your comment there. It's amazing how life works, and things that you didn't think would be relevant a few years ago any longer can still be, but it serves as a foundation for what we've become.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you both.
No,
Thank you. Yeah, this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has been.
Thank you for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. When you have an opportunity, take this program, forward it to your friends, like us, subscribe to us on every platform you can, follow us, and become a part of this family. Thanks again for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman.
Stay ahead of the curve. Subscribe right now. We will see you at the next episode.